Hey Hunter, lovely to see you again. Thanks so much for having me back. I'm really grateful. I just excellent. Just share my screen. Why is it when you open the share panel, it's never on the
It never
right?
goes the way you want it to go,
Why
does
is
it?
that?
My
Try
friends and
again.
I have a saying. We always say, "Oh, was that your plan? Was it your plan to have a smooth
This is all
transition? Was that
deliberate.
your
Yeah, to
plan?"
kind of kill some time.
This is usually when I grab my puppy, and if he's awake, he's running around barking as well. You're a dog man too, aren't you?
I'm a dog man. We don't have a dog. Myself and my 9-year-old would my 9-year-old daughter would love a dog, but my wife's not so keen. So that may be a work in progress over the next sort of 20 years or so.
Yeah, exactly. When your 9-year-old's in college, it's time to get a dog. And 19-year-olds. So, cool.
Is that
Looks like
all? Can you see that?
Yeah, we can see it. I can see the panel on the side. Yeah, if you
Yeah.
click play, it'll
So
probably
if
be all
I
set.
how's
Okay,
that?
you're all good. So I'll pass the ball over to you, but I'm here if
Okay.
you need anything. Okay.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You betcha. Thank you.
Cool. Hello, hi everyone. My name's Adam Harrison. I'm a medical doctor and qualified barrister and ex-medical director and certified coach, life leadership and executive, and with my sort of leadership background, I decided to kind of concentrate on leadership coaching. So today I'm talking about diversity, equity, or equality, depending on the acronym you use, in inclusion and workplace bullying. So these are the things I'm going to cover: definitions and types of workplace bullying, which types of people are more likely to experience workplace bullying, which types of people are more likely to be workplace bullies, how can companies be proactive about preventing bullying in the workplace after a bullying incident occurs or has been reported, what's the appropriate company response, and how can colleagues or other bystanders respond to these incidents. And yeah, so as I said, I'm a certified life leadership and executive coach. I have a special interest in workplace bullying and kind leadership. For me, they're two sides of the same coin. I coach and train on these areas for various organizations, mainly healthcare, but I'm happy to do for any. I'm a former medical director, passed the bar in 2014, qualified as a doctor a long time ago. And this slide I omitted to edit, but my Inspiring Women Leaders podcast was actually launched on the 25th of May. So coming up for 6 months old. And want to address the elephant in the room. A white man, middle-aged white man, with the privilege that entails, doing a talk on DEI. Hopefully, it's not entirely incongruous. My wife is a woman of color. She's British Pakistani. My children are mixed heritage. I have a very strong personal interest in this, and I have so many friends who are people of color, and I do a lot of work with international medical graduates who get a disproportionate amount of experience disproportionate amount of workplace bullying, and I'm an ally to all sort of discriminated against and disenfranchised groups, really. But as you can say, I'm a strong male ally from my podcast as well. So hopefully it's forgivable, my personal demographics. Okay, so just some definitions, and I know this is talked for the UK and Europe. And I know there's some people from the US in the audience as well, but there's a bit of UK and US stuff. So I thought I'd do a UK definition of workplace bullying or bullying. There's no legal definition of such. Bullying is not against the law, but usually defined as behavior such as spreading malicious rumors, treating people unfairly, picking on or regularly undermining someone, denying someone training or promotion opportunities, which is repeated, intentional, intended to hurt someone either physically or emotionally, and unwanted by the recipient, and often aimed at certain groups, for example, because of their race, religion, gender, sexual orientation, ability, disability, etc. So in the UK, bullying may not be a criminal act, but harassment is. And this is when that unwanted behavior that comes under the previous definition of bullying is related to one of the characteristics protected under the Equality Act 2010, which is that harassment occurs when, on the grounds of race, disability, gender, sexual orientation, belief, or religion, an employer or their agent, such as another employee or a manager, engages in unwanted conduct which has the purpose or effect of violating an individual's dignity or creating an interrogating, degrading, hostile, offensive, or humiliating environment for the employee in question. So there's quite a broad base of things there that you can use to kind of bring legal action against someone. And I just thought I'd put this in because, you know, when I talk about bullying, especially in the States, you know, people kind of think of it as, you know, what goes on in the playground. And actually, you know, a lot of what goes on in offices and boardrooms and so on is very much like playground behavior. But there's more to it than just that kind of overt, classical, you know, name calling, belittling, or physically attacking type behavior. So that there obviously is uncontrolled, so outbursts of verbal or physical aggression, threatening people, intimidating people, publicly criticizing people, shaming, berating, or belittling. This is really common in the workplace. Ostracizing, excluding, or gossiping or spreading rumors about people. So, you know, ostracizing, so leaving them out, isolating people. Sexual harassment, racial discrimination, discrimination on the grounds of someone's belief system or religion, spirituality, homophobia, transphobia, personal attacks on a person's private life and or physical attributes. That kind of has a bit of overlap with microaggressions. And I caught the tail end of Dawn's talk, which looked excellent. So I definitely want to re-register and look at Dawn's talk. But sorry, I didn't get to see all of that, but she was talking a lot about microaggressions there at the end. Offensive jokes around all of these things, offensive jokes on grounds of sexuality or race or religion or something like that. Still, these jokes are quite common, unfortunately. So they're more overt forms of bullying or workplace bullying, but what about the other subtle forms of bullying that we see in the workplace and that, you know, occurs very much in the home, within relationships, in social situations, you know, groups of friends or so-called friends, even when we're out at the shops, such as passive aggression, gaslighting, casual racism, microaggressions, ableism, etc. So all of these kind of hopefully gives you an idea of the breadth of things that we're dealing with, and it's not just about that kind of classical, stereotypical playground type behavior. Then those that I have kind of classified as being specifically related to the workplace, so excessively or criticizing your colleague or direct report, you know, in an unjustified way, or the opposite, withholding praise. I would say that 99% of the feedback we get in medicine as physicians is negative, very critical, and not even sort of constructively critical, just bluntly critical, unkind, very much lack of praise. Maybe 1% of the time you get some praise. Withholding essential information, so you give someone a task to do and then you don't give them all the information required to do it, which is really undermining someone and setting them up to fail. Withholding job responsibilities, and again, sorry to use lots of medical analogies, but for example, if you're a trainee surgeon and your boss has just taken against you and they've got something against you, they're not letting you kind of join them at the operating table and get involved in the surgery, and so you're not kind of learning any skills, and maybe they're favoring other trainees over you. And that's a classic example of a withholding job responsibility. Over monitoring of work, so kind of treating you like like a trainee, or almost like in a childlike way. I know a senior a senior trainee in a surgical specialty, who's a British-born woman of color, who was very experienced, was not very far off being a consultant surgeon, and was doing one of her last rotations in a place in England, in a hospital in England, for 6 months. And when she was going to clinic with her boss, with the consultant, he was basically making her take histories and examine patients, and then present all of the findings to him as if she were a medical student, rather than respecting her for the highly competent, highly skilled, accomplished professional surgeon that she was. And then setting unrealistic goals, deadlines, or workload, which is in a similar vein to withholding essential information, essentially setting someone up to fail, so that then you feel like you have a reason or an excuse to discipline them and cause problems for them. Oops. Okay, here we go. Okay, so this is a slide on the prevalence of workplace bullying from a survey conducted by the Workplace Bullying Institute in the US. So Doctors Ruth and Gary Namey head up this institute. Is the preeminent workplace bullying organization in the States and probably the world. The survey they did from last year asked over 1,200 workers questions about bullying, and 30% of them disclosed that they were being bullied, compared with 19% 4 years previously. So an increase of 11% in 4 years. And further to that, an additional 19% of co-workers have witnessed bullying in the workplace, in their workplace. It's estimated from that survey that almost 49 million Americans were bullied at work. But at the time of the survey, 49% of the workforce, so 76 million workers, were affected by it. So there's the sort of person that's being bullied, and then there's the bystanders and the effect that that's having on them, for example. And managers are often bullies, but actually we forget that they are victims as well, and a significant minority, so 40% of those who reported being bullied were actually managers. And probably not unsurprisingly, remote workers are bullied at a higher rate than others. And I've certainly seen in some organizations this real strong, strident desire to get people back into the office, even though we know that actually the outcomes for the organizations are better with people working from home or working in a hybrid way. Now, I just want to put this slide into a little bit of context, because in researching this talk, I couldn't find loads of up-to-date data on this. As you can see, I'm having to rely on a staff survey from the National Health Service staff from 6 years ago, and if you kind of plug DEI concerns and associated with workplace bullying into a search engine, very little comes up. You get like articles on diversity, equity, and inclusion, or articles coming up on workplace bullying, but you're not really together, even though you put those terms in the search bar together. I think that people are slowly becoming more courageous and are, I don't want to say happier to, but because people are not really happy to disclose this, but more comfortable in disclosing that they've experienced workplace bullying or that they've seen it. But we have a hugely long way to go. And although the commonest people, as you can see from those statistics, are people who fall under that sort of DEI umbrella, they are the very people that are least likely to want to report it. So I think that in time, over the next few years, we will get more data coming out. I think there is a real acute need to look into this further. But that's me kind of prefacing these findings. So according to this survey anyway, 23% of senior doctors, so consultants in the UK or attendings in the States, 20% of trainee doctors, so anyone who's not a consultant or an attending, and 24% of other doctors and dentists. Now, by that, there are non-training grade doctors, so what we call SAS grade doctors, so specialists and associate specialists, of which staff grade doctors are a type of that. So they are not in training, but they're not consultants. And they are, a lot of them is comprised of international medical graduates. So anyway, they had experienced workplace bullying, harassment, or abuse in 2015 to 2016. All NHS staff, almost a quarter had experienced the same in that period surveyed. And we can see that the disabled staff were quite clearly on the receiving end of more workplace bullying, harassment, or abuse in that time period. LGBTQ plus staff, again, very high numbers compared with the 24% of all NHS staff. Now, the ethnic minority staff are at a higher rate than the white staff, as you would expect, and female staff at a higher rate than male staff. And of all the types of bullying and harassment, women doctors are significantly more likely to suffer sexual harassment in their careers than men. And in terms of the bullies, 2/3 of the bullies are male, 1/3 of them are female, and the male bullies target, say 6 out of 10 of their targets are men, and 4 out of 10 of their targets are female. With the female bullies, almost 2/3 of their targets are women, fellow women, and 1/3 of them are male targets. And that's again that American data from 2021. But again, hard to find anything on the demographics of the bullies. In my experience, they are generally cis men, predominantly white in the UK and the USA, but whatever the dominant ethnicity is in the country. So, in China, there may be a certain subpopulation of Chinese of a certain origin that are the dominant people there, and same in India, and they will be the predominant ethnicity of the bullies there. They lack an obvious visible disability, and they're more likely to be heterosexual. So how can companies be proactive about bullying in the workplace? So first thing, get the basics right at an organizational level. So implement person-centered organizational values that are both kind and lived. So kind organizational values that are actually apparent in the day-to-day workings of the organization. So not just those that are on the website as these are our values, aren't we a fantastic organization, what great values we have, but are those values actually permeating through the organization from the chief executives down to everyone on the shop floor? Every room you walk in, there's kind values. That's what we need. Create policies to develop and promote positive, diverse cultures. Have a pervasive ethos of compassionate, servant, and inclusive leadership. I kind of Group those together: compassionate, servant, inclusive, and relational leadership as what I call kind leadership. So pervasive ethos of kind leadership. Foster a workplace culture where workers have a right to a happy work life, where that's normal, not something we have to fight for, but it's just accepted. That's the norm, and when we're not happy, that's abnormal. Role modeling and positive behavior by the chief execs, chief COOs, CFOs, etc., and all leaders, so that we can look to them for a good example, not a sort of malignant example. And my personal thing: provide leading through kindness training for all leaders. And when workplace bullying occurs, acknowledge it. Acknowledge there's a problem and be proactive about tackling it. Don't be one of these organizations that says, oh no, we don't need anyone to come in and help us with our workplace bullying policy. What workplace bullying? We don't have workplace bullying. Of course, every organization has workplace bullying. So what can your organization do? They can appoint and train freedom to speak up guardians. They can have a strict, and by strict I mean zero tolerance, open door policy and transparent, accessible complaint procedure for workplace bullying, where the whistleblowers are not penalized. Wouldn't that be nice? Train line managers around handling workplace bullying and training others. And it's all in the communication. It's that kind of sensitivity. It's the communication skills. It's active listening. It's just kindness. Just be kind. Encourage reporting to these newly kind and newly equipped and skilled line managers who have great communication skills, or encourage reporting to the freedom to speak up guardian. Either or is fine. Monitor the data, monitor the organizational data to identify patterns to target interventions. If we look at the data, then we know where to spend our time and energy and money in tackling the problem. Root cause analysis. What can my line manager do? They can provide a training on inappropriate behavior and its impact to all members of the team, having been trained to do that themselves, of course, not just, oh, you go off and do this training for your team. Identify early warning signs and challenge inappropriate behaviors. So spot things where things might be going, there's some red flags or amber flags or whatever, things may be going wrong, and speak up and call it out and get the perpetrators or alleged perpetrators in line straight away. Respond quickly and kindly to complaints and issues. So quickly, because we know that these things, drag on for months and months and months, 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. That's no good for the victim and the alleged perpetrator, who may not be a perpetrator, maybe something vexatious. And again, pervasive kindness throughout. And what can you do if you see someone else being bullied at the time? So are you satisfied objectively that what you're witnessing is a form of bullying or harassment according to the definitions I've given you? According to, does it look as if it's intentional? Is it unwanted by the recipient? And the harder categorization is the repeated, I suppose, if it's the first time you've seen it. But if you see someone being picked on more than once, then it satisfies that criteria. And speak up and call it out. This is what we all need to do. This is great leadership. We don't need to be formal leaders to be able to do this. I fully acknowledge that it takes a huge amount of courage to speak up in the face of the perpetrator, who can be very intimidating when we're trying to defend a colleague. But we have to do what's right, I think, anyway. And if we're not, are we complicit by not speaking up? And are we just guilty of watching things pan out? And like the Genovese effect, which you can look up, based on the Kitty Genovese case from the 1960s in the US. But context is everything. What's your role? What's the bully's role? How senior are they? What are the personal or career ramifications of your actions? Are you going to have a target on your back next? Are you going to be in line to be disciplined because they're going to make something up or make your life more difficult or work? Is there anything else you can do? Can you fetch someone else? Can you fetch another manager? Fetch someone to support and maybe act as a witness? And then afterwards, you've seen it, you've witnessed it. Are you still satisfied that what you witnessed was a form of bullying or harassment? Give the victim some time, some space, listening ear. Ask them how they are. Ask them how they really are. Give them time to speak to you. It's no point doing these things in a hurried way. check if they felt they were being bullied. You know, they may not, and there may be, and I'm not making excuses for perpetrators at all. The reason I do all this is because I've been a victim of bullying so many times in my medical career. So I feel really, really strongly and passionately about this, and don't want to let people off the hook. But is it possible that, you know, the alleged perpetrator had a really awful start to the day, came into work in a bad mood? The alleged victim came to work having had a really difficult start to the morning as well. They're feeling overly sensitive, and it was just their stars aligned in an unfortunate way, and it appeared like an episode of bullying, but it was just, you know, someone blew their top and they apologized afterwards, kind of thing. Is that what happened? Depersonalization. It's not the victim's fault. You just happened to be in the firing line at that time. It was an unfortunate coincidence. Whoever had been there at that time would have got the brunt of the bullies, you know, kind of vocalizations. Yeah, as I said before, safe space. That's what we need, a safe space where people can be vulnerable, and where you can listen to them and support them. And my mantra to victims of workplace bullying is that it's not your fault. You're not alone. It's extremely common, as we've seen from the data, and they have no reason to feel ashamed. Okay, they're my kind of three things that I sort of say and I feel are important. And it may be, you know, like you know, kind of a la Brené Brown, where vulnerability and authenticity really helps. If something similar has happened to you and you feel able to be vulnerable with that person, share your experience with them, and then they know they're not alone. And I finally just have a little quote that I absolutely love, by Rabbi Harold Kushner, which is, do things for people not because of who they are or what they do in return, but because of who you are. So it's a fundamental thing about kindness there. And so hopefully you'll agree that we've covered all of the topics that I said we would in the learning objectives. And please, you know, if you want any further information or any help with anything, then just reach out to me. And thank you for your time. Thank you for listening. Thanks, Power to Fly, for having me again.